final sail passed for APEC Sea Surveillance Forces. Pacific Island states clear on regional needs. And nurses present revised awards to department.
This is the National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Wednesday's news. Members of the Papua New Guinea Defence Force, the Royal Australian Navy and the New Zealand Army, who provided maritime surveillance during the recent APEC Leaders Week, sailed past the APEC House as part of their concluding of their operations. Their tasks had involved providing awareness to local fishermen on where to fish during the Leaders Week and ensuring the perimeter surrounding the APEC House was safe. The operations were coordinated under the Joint Security Task Force unit headed by the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary.
Maritime surveillances for the APEC security operation in Port Moresby were supported by the Australian, New Zealand and American forces. It included teams from PNG Water Police, PNG DFC Element, the US Coast Guards, US Marines and the Royal Australian Navy. It was the biggest operation and saw close to 1,000 seamen and women take part, with each unit specializing in different tasking. The US provided specialist capabilities on board their amphibious naval vessel, USS Green Bay, which sailed into Port Moresby from Japan with 500 sailors and marines on board. The Australians on board HMAS Adelaide acted as the first support unit and anchored meters away from the APEC House, while the US Coast Watches and Maritime Police conducted continuous boat patrols along the cruise liners and the APEC House, enforcing the restricted fishing zones. Yesterday, the 3 patrol boats from the Australian Royal Navy and the New Zealand Army sailed past the APEC House as a sign of concluding respect. Members on board HMAS Adelaide are still in Port Moresby and are expected to sail back to Australia before the end of the week. Thakla Gunga, National EMTV News.
It's practically a full-blown race over who has the most influence in the Southern Pacific region, with the APEC communique still not agreed to and signed, making it the first in 29 years. It's a clear sign the 2 world superpowers, the US and China, will continue to move their influence into the Pacific. Adelaide Siroxkari spoke with Pacific Islands Forum General Secretary Dame Meg Taylor on her observation at the APEC Leaders Summit.
While it was all smiles at the family photo for the APEC 21 leaders, it's now clear that behind closed-door discussions, there was a different tone. Heavy dialogue and disagreements on the final APEC 2018 leaders communique.
It's my great pleasure to once again welcome you here to this APEC House in Port Moresby.
PNG hosting APEC 2018 has brought to light the struggle in the Pacific to have influenced strategic naval bases and strong diplomatic relations. The Pacific Island Forum attended the APEC meeting as an observer. General Secretary Dame Meg Taylor says the message was clear. Island nations would see the world as it is.
All other countries are trying to have an influence in terms of how we see the world. We will see the world, or our leaders have said they will see the world as they choose. They have relationships with many countries.
The Northern Pacific is a stronghold for the US, with naval bases in Japan, Guam and Hawaii. And it wasn't until recently, when the Chinese moved to set up a naval base in Vanuatu, did they realize the importance of the Southern Pacific.
Of interest now, again, in the Southern Pacific by the United States, after a long absence. The Northern Pacific has always had a relationship with the US. We see an increased activity also of interest with France. France has, its territories who are now members of the forum, and we will make those relationships work.
While the U.S. and its alliance is promising better trade agreements and initiatives to countries who don't sign on to the One Belt Road Initiative.
To development financing, we're also making infrastructure in the Indo-Pacific a top priority, from roads to railways, ports to pipelines, airports to data lines. And the United States has a principled approach that stands in stark contrast to some other nations.
PNG is already a member of the BRI, along with Fiji, Vanuatu and Tonga. For the Pacific Island Forum, it will become a sticky situation as Australia and New Zealand are allies of the US and are a part of the Pacific Island Forum.
Australia is a member of the Pacific Island Forum. It is important that Australia, New Zealand are, I think, in a continuous consultative engagement with all our member states, so that whatever the decisions are made for the future, they're made as a collective.
Adelaide's Xerox Kari, National, MTV News.
Authorities at the Bomana prison outside Port Moresby were quick to confirm that reports of a jailbreak this morning were false. However, MTV News confirmed that there was an argument between inmates at the minimum security unit compound during the early hours of this morning. There were several gunshots fired into the air to disperse the inmates and no one was injured. MTV News visited the prison at 10:30 a.m. today and was informed that the situation inside the prison cells were under control. Meanwhile, the Department of Petroleum and Energy headquarters in Port Moresby came under attack at 12 noon today. Angry landowners from PDLs 1 and 7 entered the main gate on 2 truckloads and started throwing stones at the building. The attack comes 24 hours after the rampage at the National Parliament House.
The staff were caught by surprise and much of the office equipment destroyed. Security guards manning the gates described the attack as violent and a number of senior public servants were injured. The initial fight erupted over delayed royalty payments, followed by a rampage as stones were hurled at the department's office. MTV can confirm that those involved in the fight are in custody at the Bali police station. A total of 29 people are being detained. Some of the landowners who are in custody were also seriously injured and received treatment from St. John at the station. Adelaide's Xerox Kari, National, MTV News.
The 20 days of human rights activism for this year began today with the national theme, Act Now to End Gender-Based Violence in the World of Work. Speak Out, Now Yet, Now Yet. Within the period of 20 days from November the 20th to December the 10th, various human rights programs will be observed by the public, non-government organizations and their supporting partners. Patricia Chiamo reports.
The 20 Days of Human Rights Activism program begins today with the Magna Carta PNG's program marking the Universal Children's Day at LaSalle Technical College. The Universal Children's Day is one of the programs that will be observed during the 20 Days of Human Rights Activism.
The school, classrooms,
During the Children's Day program, coordinator of Magna Carta PNG, Shelley Kaupa, made mention of the other human rights programs.
Magna Carta will mark the 4 days, which is the first one, 28th of November, but we put it together today. And tomorrow we'll mark the Children's Day at Jubilee Secondary. And we'll partner with Coalition for Change for the international elimination of violence on girls and women, and they'll be having a candlelight and prayer. So Magna Carta will partner with them, and Magna Carta will partner with other organizations to participate in the 20 Days of Human Rights Activism program.
All these programs within the 20 days will help people to understand their human rights as well as knowing their responsibilities that come along with their rights. Magna Carta is working with partners like the United Nations Population Fund and the Human Rights Office of the United Nations to facilitate these programs. Patricia Chiamo, National MTV News.
Over 1.6 million kina in total was extended by the government of Japan to 4 successful recipients of the grant assistance for grassroots human security projects. The PNG Fire Service in NCD, 2 primary schools and 1 elementary school in the country signed the grants today. Through this assistance project, Japan continues to contribute to empowering the people of Papua New Guinea.
4 grassroots grant aid contracts were signed today at the Japanese embassy. Officiating the ceremony, Ambassador of Japan to PNG, Satoshi Nakajima, congratulated the recipients and mentioned that since 1989, Japan has funded up to 25 GGP projects in the country.
The lives of the people in the communities by addressing basic human needs, such as primary education, primary health care, basic infrastructure, such as water supply systems and equipment for disaster prevention, among others.
4 representatives were present to sign the grants and personally thank the people and government of Japan. The PNG Fire Services will be receiving more equipment and training to enhance their agility and skills.
When we are faced with challenges, so I would very much like to thank the government of Japan and the people of Japan.
2 primary schools in the Eastern Highlands and 1 elementary school in Northern Province will experience expansions and addition of infrastructure, including water tanks. All 3 representatives expressed their gratitude as this was their biggest need.
Government can offer us a classroom. I think I am very, very thankful.
Your assistance with this grant will go a long way
for assisting this village with these funds. I'm just speechless here.
Ambassador Nakajima urged the recipients to contribute their best efforts in completing the project on time. Lilian Sopera-Kinea, National EMTV News.
Madang Provincial Police Commander believes there is a general lack of regard by a minority in the community who are attacking respected members of the community. Chief Inspector Ben Neneo comments follows an incident on Monday where the Provincial Senior Magistrate Josephine Kilage's vehicle's windscreen was smashed. Local police have been directed to carry out an investigation.
These were the damages done to the Senior Provincial Magistrate Josephine Kilage's vehicle at around 5 a.m. on Monday. According to the police report filed by Magistrate Kilage, an unknown number of suspects threw stones into a premises, smashing the front windscreen of a vehicle.
I can say Madang is a small place, the town itself, so everybody seems to know who is who. So if respected people in the province or people in authority are attacked by criminals or that, it's just so total lack of respect.
2 CID officers are now tasked to carry out an investigation to identify suspects involved and the motive behind such act.
I have tasked my officers to try to establish the direction of the stone that been thrown to the front windscreen of the vehicle. So we will try to see whether the stone's been thrown is from the people living around it, the magistrate's compound or from the public street.
This is not the first incident to happen to a respected member of the community. In January this year, former Chief Justice and Madang Governor Se Anul Ahmed was attacked by an armed man while driving into town from his home at Nagada. In another incident, 4 suspects who were among a group of 7 armed men arrested and detained for further interrogation. The armed men stole 100,000 kina from employees of a Graysmore supermarket at Ramu while they were trying to do banking. The armed men, while trying to escape, fired shots at the general public. A pregnant woman who was traveling in a PMV bus was shot during the ordeal, and she died from bullet wounds sustained. Meanwhile, 3 suspects are still at large. Investigations are underway. Martha Lewis, National EMTV News, Madang.
You're watching National EMTV News. We go for a break now, but we'll continue with more of today's stories when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The St. Mary's Vunapope Hospital in East New Britain has been reopened after it was closed for 2 days. The closure came following a break-and-enter incident at the hospital premises on Sunday night. The hospital's administrator, Albert Seri, says numerous management meetings have been underway since Monday to find possible solutions to addressing this issue. Last Sunday's incident is the second time this year that the hospital has scaled down its operations, prompted by a burglary incident. The St. Mary's Vunapope Hospital is one of the 2 biggest referral hospitals in East New Britain, and its closure over the past 2 days has greatly affected people in the entire province of East New Britain. The Papua New Guinea Nurses Association yesterday presented their reviewed awards to the National Health Department. Outstanding issues have been presented in the review of their awards, which they hope the government will address.
To come back to us.
The presentation of the reviewed award marked the start of the process of negotiations and consultations between the PNG Nurses Association and the National Department of Health. PNG-NA representatives from each regions of PNG reviewed the award based on issues faced in the previous awards of 2016 to 2018. National President of PNG-NA, Frederick Kabai, says that timely action in terms of negotiation is needed for the reviewed award to be approved. The award was first introduced in January 2011 and enforced between 2016 to 2018 and will expire towards the end of next month. The awards have again been reviewed and will be implemented from 2019 to 2021. With the purpose of recognizing the commitment of nurses in delivering health services in the country, the award looks at the minimum allowances for shift work and other risk-associated work done by nurses in the country.
In our previous award, 2016 to 2018, mostly it covered the nurses in clinical area. But in today's world, in PNG, nurses cover a wide range.
Receiving the reviewed award from the PNG-NA was the Senior Industrial Relations Officer for the Department of Health, Mulina Kwalimo.
It's going to be a required dialogue, consultation with the industrial registrar from Labour, and also in consultation with Department of Personnel Management.
The President of PNG-NA explains that amendments have been done to existing closures.
Slightly renaming and increasing the existing clauses that we have in the award. It's about 19 clauses in the award that we have reviewed. Some we have retained and some we have increased.
The new reviewed award will cover nurses in main hospitals as well as rural health areas. It will include nurses which specialize in areas such as clinical management, leadership, or as nursing academics in nursing schools. Meanwhile, PNG-NA says that existing closures from the previous award should be implemented to cover all nurses across the country. Elizabeth Guka, National EMTV News.
Westpac PNG signed its first ever staff agreement with the PNG Banks and Financial Institution Workers Union today in Port Moresby. 4 key elements of the agreement are increased pay for lower paid staff, increased leave by 5 more days, providing more job security, and maternity leave for female staff.
Westpac Bank's vision is to help communities, its customers and its staff to prosper and grow. This is the first workplace agreement after 7 years of failed attempts. Westpac Bank General Manager Adrian Hughes says the agreement was formalized on December of last year with the aim to finalize it before the end of this year. Hughes says there are 4 key elements to the agreement. The most important one was to increase income for staff at the lower end of the salary scale. The second element is
we increased the annual leave provision from 15 days to 20 days, which is a significant improvement in annual leave benefit. We've modernised our severance packages to make them fair and transparent for all. And we provided more flexibility for working mums so they can better balance their work commitments.
The agreement is a collective agreement between Westpac Bank management and union representatives on behalf of the staff. The agreement intends to improve on various conditions of the Employment Act of 1978. Union General Secretary Vera Ragas says Westpac and other banks like Bank South Pacific and private and government organizations have formed unions and signed agreements that will and may benefit their staff in a lot of ways.
Improve on the various conditions and of course, whatever is already a good practice at Westpac is incorporated into the agreement. And of course, Westpac being a global bank, international rated bank, it has a lot of best practice, and we are glad to be part of that is now enshrined into our agreement.
After the papers were signed, they were handed to the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations Registrar, Helen Salayu, to be registered and implemented. Salayu says once registered, the agreements will be legalized.
Guided by your agreement, which you have both reached consensus and concluded with this agreement. So with that, I congratulate you and wish you all the best.
Michelle Stephen, National EMTV News.
Parents in the Day electorate of Western Highlands Province have pledged to respect the rights of their children at all times. Students from the St. Joseph Moon Primary School outside the district hosted a mini celebration for World Children's Day yesterday and had their parents pledge their support. Supported by UNICEF, the school turned into a sea of blue to commemorate the day.
Students from St. Joseph Moon Primary School led the World Children's Day celebration by giving speeches.
Parents and teachers, work hard for children to live a good life.
Acting.
I didn't give any money to buy a pencil, so then she went to school.
Singing and performing acts to commemorate World Children's Day. The students from elementary to grade 8 appealed to their parents, siblings, teachers and friends to always respect their rights to go to school, to be fed well, live healthy, drink clean water and many more.
Many a times, parents and teachers treat children in ways that make them feel unhappy.
The World Children's Day is celebrated on November 20th each year to promote children's welfare. Research has shown that many children are being abused at home, at school and in public areas, which affects their behavior. In this year's celebration, UNICEF urged parents to sign its petition and pledge cards, calling on world leaders to commit fulfilling the rights of every child.
It is my right to go to school.
UNICEF introduced the Go Blue campaign to promote international togetherness, awareness among children worldwide, and improving children's welfare to live in harmony. This year's theme is minimizing violence against children in schools. Vasenata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
An elementary school in Leh that has survived school closure twice this year has graduated 33 students today. Enza Elementary School is a government-registered school situated in the Nawai district under Leh. The school chairman, John Taylor, said the school was established in 2012 with less support from the district and Morabit provincial governments.
These are grade 2 students of Enza Elementary School who graduated this morning. The ceremony was witnessed by the community, including the parents and guardians. The school's chairman, John Taylor, said the school has faced problems operating this year.
People are located inside long boundary below Leh na Nawai na Paul because people are woodlon Nawai, but council is inside Leh. Now people are thinking that government of the day also think was people are service law Nawai. Now I think was people are service law Leh. So schools where people stop inside long Kamkum area go sem antap and people stop nothing. We people no support lo government.
Enza Elementary School is the only elementary school located at Kamkumung village. It was established in 2012 and has graduated over 200 students. The school benefits the community at Boinamo Gravel along Independence Drive in Leh. The school's chairman said it wasn't easy managing the school because it was operating on a customary land.
This is the service that I bring to Morobe people. And this school will be established and it will stay here. When I finish, I will not take this school out. It will be the property of Morobe. And I'm the service provider. Tomorrow I will be going. That's why Morobe has to look into that. because that's their service. And their Morobe kids have benefit from that.
Enter Elementary School is one of the 16 feeder schools of Omili Primary School in Lae. Omili Primary School's elementary coordinator, Wagi Yause, says the elementary school needs new building facilities to accommodate students next year.
Enza elementary school facing problem lo building long facility, especially long land. But all move from, I think this is the 5th location only come again. But regardless lo, this la problem all facing, also still supplying pigini come lo mili. This is the highest to this year, all give me 33 plus pigini.
Julie Badui Oa, National MTV News, Lae.
10 youth from Kavieng have set the precedent for other youths nationwide. They have shown that starting up an SME does not only have economic benefits, but can also help solve social issues and empower youths in the country. Kavieng Provincial Village Court Coordinator James Bandau's brilliant and innovative initiative to start up a poultry project with youth in Liverpool Village in Kavieng will help decrease socio-economic issues most commonly associated with youth, instill responsibility and increase individual economic growth among youth in that area. The United States Agency for International Development, through their READY project, handed a report to the Climate Change and Development Authority in Port Moresby this week. The report, conducted jointly by CCDA and USAID, identifies strengths and weaknesses in policies and procedures that will enable the CCDA to effectively perform its functions.
The Joint Organization Assessment is providing CCDA with the baseline information of their capacity to take on the roles and functions of the National Designated Authority. This benefits them in planning and reconfiguring their organizational structure, how they conduct their business, and how they interact with stakeholders at every level. It will also improve their governance programs and project approach and their work efficiency and effectiveness.
Some of the challenges are governance-related challenges, the ability to report, to have the Climate Change Board on board to oversee what's happening on the ground, all the ambitious projects proposals that are coming in from adaptation, from mitigation, so the board oversees. Currently, that structure is in place legally, but it needs to happen. Meetings need to be called. Secretaries need to meet, from government. So that structure needs to happen and therefore provides the oversight. So that's not there in governance.
Levi says many at times financial backing is always the case when it comes to climate change. USAID READY program has been actively working with the CCDA since 2016 to prepare an application for a 2 million kina Green Climate Fund readiness and preparatory support proposal, which the Green Climate Fund approved in December 2017.
So if I were the community and I needed help on adapting to climate change, or, for example, creating a riverside wall so that the time for the next flood, the river doesn't burst its banks and flood my school and my family and my village, right? So, I would need an adaptation program to help me do that. Do we relocate? Do we build a riverside wall? Or what do we do? So I would need funds to actually do that. I would need specialists to actually do that. So
he says staff education on climate change issues and rescue procedures are also important, and community engagements are necessary.
Institutional strengthening of staff themselves. Staff, we found out from this assessment that staff are very competent in the work that they do, but they lack the supporting infrastructure. It needs internet infrastructure. It needs that budget, strong budget, to provide support for the authority to do its work.
Earlier this year, USAID, in association with CCDA, supported the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat to organize and conduct a Melanesian sub-regional private sector workshop.
A number of these communities in the Pacific Island countries have what they call disaster risk management plans, or community disaster risk management plans, where they map out where they are at the moment in terms of a tsunami wave or in terms of a tidal surge. And so they actually know where to run, they actually know where to move, and they actually now know where to plan for the next 5 years in terms of building a church, building a community hall, building a school. They now know, guys, we cannot build 2 meters, from the shoreline.
Godwin Eki, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News this Wednesday. We'll take a look at stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, the US president is standing by Saudi Arabia despite the CIA claim that the Saudi Crown Prince ordered the killing of American resident and journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Donald Trump says yes, the murder was terrible, but trade and security ties with Riyadh are too vital to risk.
From President Trump today, a forceful defense.
If we abandoned Saudi Arabia, it would be a terrible mistake.
That in spite of the Washington Post report that the CIA has concluded Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman himself ordered the assassination of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Khashoggi, last seen alive walking into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, officials say he was assassinated by a Saudi hit squad. These airport security images published in a Turkish newspaper show the luggage of the alleged killers. Right there, electric shock devices, syringes, scissors, and radios. There was even an audio recording of Khashoggi's execution. Apparently, none of it enough to convince the president to break ranks with this Middle Eastern ally. He told me there's just too much on the line.
Why are you siding with the Saudis over your own intelligence community?
Because it's America first for me. Saudi Arabia, if we broke with them, I think your oil prices would go through the roof. I'm not going to destroy the world economy, and I'm not going to destroy the economy for our country by being foolish with Saudi Arabia.
Today, in an exclamation point-filled statement, the president emphatically declared the world is a very dangerous place. And while he criticized the murder, saying the crime against Jamal Khashoggi was a terrible one and one that our country does not condone, he also essentially declared the matter case closed, writing, "It could very well be that the Crown Prince had knowledge of this tragic event. Maybe he did, and maybe he didn't."
A member of the infamous Bali 9 drug smugglers is said to be released from prison in Indonesia to return to Australia. Renee Lawrence may be the only member of the group caught smuggling heroin in 2005 to ever taste freedom.
Nestled at the foothills of the Mount Agung volcano, Bangli Prison, where today the media's waited since early morning, ready to swarm at any sign Renee Lawrence is being freed after more than 13 years. The 41-year-old, the first and possibly only member of the infamous Bali 9 to be released. The group of Australians was convicted of trying to smuggle heroin out of Indonesia in 2005. Its two ringleaders sentenced to death and executed by firing squad. Another died of stomach cancer. The remaining 5 unlikely to ever be free.
She's going to go to 20-year sentence, and yeah, I wish her the best of luck. Yep. But for me, I'm still here with a life sentence, and I'm still doing all that I can to better myself, and I still have hope that my sentence will come down.
Lawrence was just 27 when she was caught with nearly 3 kilograms of heroin strapped to her body. A life sentence was cut to 20 years on appeal. Over the years, more time's been shaved off.
She is good. Yeah. She is healthy.
Her 13 years have been eventful, from spending time with fellow Aussie drug smuggler Chappelle Corby to allegations she plotted to kill a guard. Lawrence learned how to paint and converted to Hinduism, becoming a popular prisoner. But freedom for Lawrence may be short-lived. When she lands back home, she may have to face court over old charges involving a high-speed car chase in a stolen vehicle here in Sydney.
I can confirm there's 2 outstanding arrest warrants for her. We will make a time reasonably with her legal team to bring her in to have those warrants satisfied.
Jail bosses say Lawrence is rehabilitated. She's said to be nervous to return home. For one of the country's most infamous drug smugglers, freedom comes with an uncertain future.
Here with National EMTV News, we go for a break. When we come back, we take a look at some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Samoa's Prime Minister says his country is ready to host the Pacific Games in 2019. In an interview with EMTV, the Prime Minister said they have infrastructure in place following the Youth Commonwealth Games in 2015.
We have undertaken a minimal minimal repairs and maintenance, but the focus of attention now is much more on the organization of the games.
To the Oceania Rugby 15s Championships, and the ICTSI Palai's second match against Fiji did not end well for PNG as Fiji maintained its winning run. Despite all the efforts the Palais put in, Fiji proved to be the dominant side, walloping PNG at the end 96 points to 0.
The Fiji Airways Fijiana 15s made it very clear from their first round win that it was no accident in dominating and dictating a demonstration of attacking rugby against the Palais. With a few line-breaking runs, the Fiji forwards set up many of the 9 first-half tries, which saw Fiji going into the half-time break 53 to the Palais 0. For PNG, who struggled to register points in the first half, the second half didn't provide any relief as Fiji went on to add 8 more tries to their tally. The Palais were unable to break through to create space and get the ball into the hands of their fast wingers as they did so well in the first round. Palais captain Debbie Kaure says she was happy with the effort from the girls.
It'll be a real big challenge for us. At the moment we have like 2 separate associations, and a couple of the girls have been playing 10s. The couple of the other association has been playing 15s. But yeah, if we can pick a really good side, then obviously we have a long way to go, but we're not doubting ourselves.
Fiji Airways Fijiana captain Rusila Nagasau had nothing but joy to see her team take victory in the end.
I think what we talked about in the blackboard is trying to push them back, especially the forwards, try to put pressure on them, and that's what we did today, especially the backline. We were just trying to put pressure on the PNG backline to stop them from getting to the advantage line, and that's what we talk about back in the blackboard, just to put pressure before they come for the advantage line. We should hit the advantage line first.
Palais coach John Pankatana, while congratulating the ladies for their efforts, says they have come a long way and will continue to better their game into the future.
In a couple of days training, we've really firmed up pretty well. We've sorted a few issues about our scrum, which we had trouble with against Samoa. Obviously, Fiji will probably be a bigger forward pack to handle. Most impressively was, as everyone saw, was their courage. They were brave. You know, the only thing we had to do in them was to set their minds right, to say that we've come a long way. We only had a few hours break. You know, put everything behind you, play for your country, play with pride.
The final score of the match: Fiji Airways 96, Papua New Guinea Palais 0. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
The PNG Football Association is calling on expressions of interest from franchises wishing to compete in the 2018-19 National Soccer League competition. The New Look semi-professional competition will begin on the 19th of January 2019.
The New Look National Soccer League competition will see matches be played in all 4 regions of the country simultaneously. Teams wishing to participate in the 2018-2019 season can pick up the expression of interest forms at the National Soccer League office at Telecom Rumana in Port Moresby or via email on nslpngfa@gmail.com. Franchises submitting their expression of interest must be incorporated as a company and be registered with the Investment Promotion Authority. The clubs must be able to adequately demonstrate their ability to meet all financial commitments during the season. The EOI fee costs 5,000 kina and is non-refundable, while the registration of each franchise costs 45,000 kina. Registration fees have been reduced to almost half, from 80,000 kina to 50,000 kina. It is anticipated to have 7 teams in the northern and southern region, while the New Guinea Islands and Highlands region will have 6 teams. PNGFA aims to include teams from all over the country to participate in the NSL competition. They have encouraged the 18 associations to include a franchise club into the 2019 season. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
This year, 3 Papua New Guinean sporting icons will be immortalized in the country's sporting history when they join other greats in the PNG Sports Hall of Fame. The names of the 3 former athletes will be revealed tomorrow during the induction ceremony, which will be held at Paradise Cinema in Port Moresby. The former athletes hail from the sports of athletics, netball, softball and swimming, and were dominant figures in the 1960s and 70s. Through their successful sporting careers, they have contributed to the early development and recognition of sport in the country before and after independence. The Hall of Fame is presented by the PNG Olympic Committee and is held every year to commemorate the life and achievements of PNG's sporting legends. We go for another break and be back with more of Trukai Sports after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. New Zealand's first professional baseball team is racing against the clock to make its home ground good to go for the country's first ever Australian Baseball League game. The Auckland weather hasn't been playing well, but the Tuatara are putting their heads together to make light work.
The party's just getting started for the Auckland Tuatara. In just 2 days, they'll be making their New Zealand professional baseball debut. A special feeling for Auckland's Kyle Glagoski.
Played my first series away and everyone was booing, so I can't wait to pitch a game over here and have the crowd cheering on our side and hopefully get the boys a little pumped up for it.
They're certainly already pumped with all hands on the decks. Auckland's unpredictable weather turning it into a race against time to get everything done for Friday's match against Brisbane.
It's the first year in the league. We've got to do things very, very differently. The big thing about New Zealand is there's no baseball stadiums here set up, so that's part of the problem.
They'll be moving to North Harbour Stadium next season, but in the meantime, Auckland's McLeod Park has the tick of approval.
It looks nice. I went out and checked the mound before and it looks really good, and it looks exactly how a baseball field should.
And although the Tuatara opened their season with 4 losses to Perth, a win is now more important than ever.
Every time you step on that field, you expect to win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the key. So we walk on that field when the game starts, we expect to win the ball game.
And with this added energy, these men are sure to make a Kiwi first, one to remember.
Kiwi UFC star Israel Adesanya is on the verge of becoming a global superstar. In his last fight alone, he earned more than most All Blacks make in a year. More money usually means more problems, but Adesanya has spoken about how he's keeping the vultures at bay.
City kickboxing's biggest names getting reacquainted in their own special way. Rising UFC lightweight Dan Hooker in the red, making sure Israel Adesanya's feet stay firmly on the ground. Well, sort of.
My ego is it's big, but I keep it in check. They keep it in check. It's healthy. And you need it to be in a situation that I'm in.
After all, it's not hard to get carried away, having just taken New York by storm. Dominating the world number 6 at Madison Square Garden, earning $250,000 New Zealand dollars, while watching his social media following hit twice as much.
I feel it. I have to grow up. If not, I'll get eaten alive in this world. And yeah, I can see all the snakes and all the vultures are kind of like flanking and then circling and seeing how they can like profit. But I told them already, all the ones that said no in the past don't come around now.
Case in point, the promoters behind Joseph Parker, who he says recently approached him with an offer.
Guys like Duco now trying to flank and haul, and I'm like, dude, I've been here how many years?
After a private meeting with UFC President Dana White, Adesanya's title shot is on the way. And with Kiwi headliner Mark Hunt set to retire, White knows City Kickboxing's trio, including Kai Kara France, are key to holding the Australasian market.
Like you can see, just like, yes. We both had dollar signs in our eyes. We knew what was up.
Dollars, the 29-year-old's already investing in properties from Auckland to Palmerston North, as he continues to make himself at home in the UFC's $7 billion empire.
And that ends Trukai Sports for this evening. We go for a quick break, and when we come back, we take a look at the weather for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Rain and drizzles expected in Kerema, mostly fine for Daru and Alata, fine becoming cloudy for Port Moresby, showers and thunderstorms for Popondetta. To the Momasa region, some showers expected in Wewak. Thundery showers expected in Madang and Vanimo. Showers and thunderstorms also expected in Ley and Wau over the next 24 hours. To the New Guinea Islands region, thundery showers expected in Lorangau and Kavieng as well as in Buka. Showers and thunderstorms in Kokopo and Rabaul. Some showers expected in Kimbe. And in the Highlands region, the major centres Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundia, Wapmendi and Wabeg, all these major centres can expect showers and possible thunderstorm this evening with early morning fog developing.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's a news, sport and weather for today, Wednesday, the 21st of November 2018. On behalf of the entire EMTV News team right around the country, pleasant viewing. Good night.